Keep faith in yourself.
Minions have spawned.
Be bold. Be just.
Blood.
Demacia marches as one.
An enemy has been slain. Enemy killing.
Demacia! Our courage must never waver. I will not falter!
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. Slain. Shut down. An ally has been slain. You have been slain. Executed.
About it. Maybe I'd ruined my life before the age of
I
21.
bring justice.
But all the way through university, I became more and more miserable. And then I graduated and I hit rock bottom. I became a financial journalist. I got a job reporting on the German mortgage bond market. This is what happens if you mess around with the funds. My kind parents sent me to see quite an expensive therapist to try and help me. And he diagnosed me as suffering from social anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. I think he was being paid per diagnosis. And he wasn't able to help me, so I went away and I researched those conditions for myself and found they could apparently be treated by something called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. And I also discovered there were people who suffered from social anxiety. Thursday evening. So one Thursday, I went along. I found 10 people sitting in a circle. There wasn't actually a therapist present. Someone in that group had illegally downloaded a CBT course. So we listened to that course and practiced the exercise and did that and encouraged each other on. For me, at least, it worked. I stopped having panic attacks. And I began to understand how my emotions. So I became fascinated by CBT and I wondered where it had come from. I discovered it had been invented by an American psychologist named Albert Ellis, who lived in New York. So one day in 2007, I got on a plane to New York and I went to interview him. At that stage, he was 92, old, frail, and sick, and it turned out to be sadly the last speech he ever gave. He died a few months later. But I got to thank him in person for inventing this therapy that saved my life. And I asked him where it had come from. Ellis told me he had trained as a Freudian psychoanalyst in the 1950s, but he'd become frustrated with how little progress his patients seemed to make. So he looked around for other ways to understand the emotions, and he turned back to his first great love, ancient Greek philosophy. He'd been particularly inspired by a line from a Stoic philosopher called Epictetus. Epictetus said, men are disturbed not by events, but by their opinions about it. That inspired Ellis's famous ABC theory. A stands for the actuating event, something that happens. B stands for our belief, how we interpret that event. C stands for the emotion that we feel through our interpretation. It often feels like our emotions just happen to us automatically and involuntarily in response to an event. There's this action and reaction. Let's say we're walking down the street and we pass someone around, and you immediately feel offended and feel like you're straight from A to C. But if you look at that event closely, what happened was this person was a certain way. Usually, that person is frowning at me. They're looking down at me, and they shouldn't. How rude, how offensive. And that interpretation offensive. Once we realize how our interpretations lead to our emotions, we can hold our interpretations up to life and ask actions or why. We could ask ourselves, for example, was that person definitely frowning at me? Maybe they were just frowning. And if they were frowning at me, so what? Does that mean I have to take their bad mood with me through the rest of my day? We can start to choose our perceptions, our interpretations more wisely, and this will affect how we feel. So that might sound quite simple, quite easy. Unfortunately, it's not quite that easy, because a lot of the time, our interpretations are unconscious and automatic. We have a kind of running commentary, inner voice going through our head all through the day, making judgments about the things that are happening. And usually we don't question that inner voice. We don't even notice it. That inner voice will be made up of all the beliefs and opinions we've heard since we were children. We've internalized it. We assume that that running commentary, that inner voice, is always completely accurate and true. It often gets things wrong. You can think of that inner voice, that running commentary, as like a sort of 24-hour news channel, constantly commenting on your life, but in a very distorted and biased way. It never really checks the facts. Now, if you have emotional problems like depression, probably your inner commentary is jumping to very negative conclusions. You might assume, for example, that everyone is like you, or that everything's turning your hands to fail. So according to the Greek text, what often is our own belief. We are our own imprisoners, our own torturers. We cling to our negative or toxic beliefs even when they hurt us. So how do we free ourselves from our self-belief? Well, according to Socrates, the father of these what we need to do is learn how to that inner voice is always telling the truth. Learn how to engage it. That's what Socrates tried to teach his fellow getting them to think, perhaps for the first time, about their unexamined beliefs and values and life philosophy. And likewise, if you go to see a cognitive therapist, they'll also engage you in a rational dialogue, asking you questions, getting you to examine your beliefs. You can do that for yourself as well, asking yourself questions and learning to perceive, perhaps for the first time, the bars of your prison cell, your own beliefs. Do we really have control over ourselves? Can we really choose how we react to things? Aren't we the slaves of certain slaves of our DNA, of our childhood, socio-economic systems? Let me tell you, to explore that question, a little bit more about this philosopher Epictetus. He lived in the 1st century AD, and he was actually a slave. His name meant acquired. To be a slave in the Roman Empire meant you have very little control over your external life, over your situation. And yet Epictetus developed a philosophy of inner freedom and resilience, which is still incredibly powerful today. And the secret of his philosophy of resilience was to divide all of life into 2 spheres. Those things that we don't have complete control over, and those things that we do. And he said the secret is to know the difference in those 2 spheres. So what don't we have control? According to Epictetus, we don't control the weather, the government, the economy. We don't control other people. We have some influence. We don't control our own we're all getting old, and we all eventually die. And we don't have control over our own manage our online but to some extent we're beyond that. The only thing that we control to him is our emotions. And he thought that emotional problems come from 2 mistakes and they often make. Firstly, they try to exert complete control over something in that first life, something external. They insist that something in their external life must be a certain way. And then when it moves beyond their control, they feel frustration and anger. They fail to over their own beliefs and thoughts. Instead, they use something in the external world as an or an alibi. They said, I had no choice because of this happened to me or because of that. For example, when I had social anxiety, I was very fixated on what other people thought of me, because they must approve of me, and if they don't, feeling very anxious and alienated. I'd made myself a slave of something, a slave of something. The antidote to that was always out of my control. I can still accept myself, like myself, and do the right thing regardless. As soon as I thought like that, I felt less anxious and out of control, and more calm and in control. Or an alibi. They said I had no choice because of this happened to me or because of that. For example, when I had social anxiety, I was very fixated on what other people thought of me. I thought they must approve of me, and if they don't, it's a disaster. Well, that was a classic recipe for feeling very anxious and alienated and out of my control. I made myself a slave of something external, slave of something. And that was always in my control. Any moment I could say I was perfect, but that's somewhat out of my control. I can still accept myself and like myself and do the right thing regardless. As soon as I thought like that, I felt less anxious and out of control and more calm and in control. Okay, so let's say you hear a TED Talk today and you have a kind of light bulb moment. You think, now I understand how to live my life. The problem is that might change you for a few days or a few weeks, but you're probably then going to go back to the person you were before, because we're very forgetful creatures. We tend to sleepwalk through the day. And that's a problem for philosophy. Can we really change ourselves? The Greeks actually understood to what extent we are habit-based creatures. In fact, and they understood that if philosophy is going to change us, it can't just be useful ideas. It has to be turned into ingrained habits. So the word ethics in Greece is very closely connected to the word ethos, which means habit. And I'm going to end by telling you a few of their techniques of creating habits. One technique is habits. They try to make their point. Which students would repeat out loud over and over. Write it down. It also keeps journaling. At the end of the day, the training philosophy. Write down what goes down. The idea of that is that today we don't realize what we've done is who we are. So the journal is a way of keeping track of what you're actually doing, and also keeping track of your progress. Are you really making progress in weakening bad habits and strengthening good habits? Epictetus said, if you have a bad temper and you're trying to improve it, count the number of days in which you've managed not to lose your temper. And if you get to 30 changing not just your thoughts, but your behavior. So when I was trying to overcome social anxiety, it wasn't challenging belief. It was safety and therapy. And then you go out and practice and realize that or practice public speaking. So eventually one day I might do things like this. So those are some of the ways then that CBT has rediscovered the wisdom of the ancient Greeks. And CBT put it on a firm evidence base, which persuaded governments to put a lot of money into making CBT more available. In my own country, they've put £500 million into making CBT free on the National Health Service. So if we have this new kind of evidence-based version of the ideas of the Greeks, do we then still need ancient philosophy? Perhaps now we've got CBT, we don't need the Greeks anymore. I think, finally, that it is worth going back to ancient philosophy for two reasons. First of all, the ancient Greeks and Romans wrote beautifully. The works of Plato, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, some of the most beautiful works we have in Western Europe. Left something out. It left out any ideas of virtue. What it means to have a good life, a good career, a good company, or a good society. And it also left out higher questions. What's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life? Now, the ancient so they have various different answers within a good life is a life of Epicurus thought a good life is a life of Aristotle thought a good life is a life very much engaged with your society. So I don't think psychology ever going to be able to find one answer to that question of what is a good leader. We'll never find one scientific answer. And that's why I think we need philosophy. That's why I'd like to see more practical philosophy in our schools, universities, and companies as well. So we learn not just techniques for changing ourselves, but also we learn how to ask questions about what it means to live in the world, so we can make up our own.
This idea is at least 275 years old. But moreover, it has been rediscovered at 50 times out of time, often by people who are and they all call it something different. But I don't think that's why our personal experience and the way it works. But the idea that imagination is what we do, it's how we do. And I like to noted that the imagination is simply perception. Scott wrote in 1780 that we do not see the world the way it is. We see the world according to our instruments. This also could have been a quote from Daniel Kahneman's best-selling book, Thinking Fast and Slow, in 2011, which kind of gives you an idea of where we are with this.